Welcome to Single Moms Unfolded. Thanks for tuning in. I'm your host, Kelly Viera. This is a podcast for single moms created by a single mom to help single moms. This is our safe space to love, to connect, and grow together. Today we are lucky enough to have Amanda Dumas here. Amanda, welcome.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Amanda is not a single mom, but she is a very special mom that can raise our awareness and help us connect with other parents in her situation that can really help. So we'll just dive right in. Amanda, tell us a little bit about yourself and your family.
Sure. I am the parent of two children. My 15-year-old cisgendered cisgendered young man who is taking driver's ed and driving me crazy, and then almost 12-year-old transgender boy who has really made our lives different than we expected. He's very energetic and very much certain of who he is. So yes, two very outgoing and exciting and fun children.
Awesome. So how did this transgender thing start? How did you know your child was not comfortable with who they were?
Yeah, so I don't think that it was that he was uncomfortable or with who they were. It was that we were telling him that he was somebody that we wanted him to be, that he wasn't, that he was just not comfortable with. I would say that as far back as I can remember, there were moments, he never wanted to, there was the superficial things. He never wanted to play with the toys that we expected him to play with, was always more drawn to his big brother stuff. And so we thought, well, he looks up to his big brother. Didn't want to wear dresses, and it's like, okay, fine, whatever. But then, was fighting us to even shop in the girls' sections, and he experienced a lot. And I'm going to use pronouns that we use today, but at the time we used she, her pronouns when he was younger. Okay. And he just asked to go by a nickname at the age around 3 by our neighbor's kid. His name was Jack. And around the age of 3, he asked to go by Jack, and we laughed it off. And
I think he just wants to be like Jack, right?
Yeah, we just like, no. But, around the age of 4, he asked for a buzz cut, and I now look back with shame and realize just how damaging this could have been. But at the time, I showed him pictures of celebrities, of women who had shaved their head, and I would say, look how ugly they are. And now, right. like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I ever did that. Not only as like a feminist with like women look beautiful with short or long hair, but right. But at the time, the idea of him cutting his hair was terrifying, because I knew what it meant. I knew that he could pass with the way he dressed, and the way, if he cut his hair, people would assume he was a boy. Right. And I knew that he would live that. And I was terrified. So we pushed it off. And eventually around the age of 5, that's what he asked for his birthday, was a haircut. And we said, okay. It grows back. But that was really it. That was pretty much
so your family's reaction at first was like, okay, it's just like a phase or something. And he just wants to be like the neighbor. Maybe the neighbor was cool, or, because we all want to be like other people we like, right? So, yeah. So what was your family's reaction? Were they like?
Well, I think we kept it pretty small at first. We kept I think our neighbors were able to see and were, tepid in their questions to us. And, we hung out with neighbors a lot and would sit with them, and they watched our child grow from the age of 2 until this point at age 5. And they're like, what's with the haircut? And we're like, oh, she just wants a haircut, and we just kind of put it off. I was fairly certain, and we were getting ready for kindergarten. This is around March before kindergarten the next year. And I just, he had already started kind of telling friends that he was meeting that he was a boy, still going by his birth name, but telling them that he was a boy. And I was convinced that that he was trans, and I was ready to, like, make all the changes so that when he started school, he wouldn't have to deal with bullies.
Oh.
He would just be who he wanted to be. My husband wasn't, so we went to counseling, and it really helped us. We've been together for 24 years now, but at the time, it was, married 18 years, or together 18 years, something like that, and it was the hardest year of our marriage. We were not on the same page. We really struggled with it, so we kept it really inside just our household.
Right.
Counseling suggested we ask him for a nickname, and that was a really helpful thing, I think, for us as a family. They thought maybe we closed the door when we laughed about changing the name to Jack or Zach or whatever it was, and so they said, ask him for a nickname. So we were on a soccer team at the time, and there was a little girl named Sharky, and so he said, I want to go by Sharky, and we're like, well, you can't, because the other kid.
They'll confuse you, right?
Yeah, and then it was Monkey, and then it was like Mickey, and then all of a sudden one day, I had just come home from a business trip and was sitting with him for dinner, and he said, you look really pretty, Mommy. And I said, well, thank you. I'm wearing makeup. And he goes, I don't like makeup. And I said, no, I know. You don't like makeup. I know. And he said, I don't like any of the things that you like. And I was like, oh.
Right. A little heartbreaking, okay.
I think we like some things that you like. It's like, I don't know. Goes, just randomly, he goes, what do you think of the name Michael? And I was like, oh, that's a nice name. And that's my ex-boyfriend's name.
So you're like, really? Can we pick another one?
Yeah. I was like, that's a nice name. And he goes, can that be my nickname? And I said, and he had been learning how to spell his name, and his birth name was all the same letters.
Okay.
And so I think he was comfortable and familiar with it. And so I said, sure, that can be your nickname. And he goes, my name's Michael. And that was it. And that was it. And he used that name the minute he started school. Excuse me.
So that's very interesting. How did you move forward from there? Once he felt like, okay, I can be called Michael, you could identify with that, being a boy and kind of having that nickname. Where did you do that?
I'm so sorry. Yeah, so we moved forward really cautiously. We met with the school administrators, and we said, we don't really know what we're doing. And we talked to our doctor, and we said, what do we do? And the doctor had no advice for us. I have to pause again.
Okay, no problem.
Oh, gosh. I remember where I'm at, though, so I'll keep going.
Okay.
Okay.
You know what? Everybody's coughing and stuff. My daughter had the flu last weekend, the weekend before. She's still hacking and stuffy, and tissues are everywhere. Yeah.
So, okay. So we talked to our doctor, and the doctor was like, had nothing for us. Eventually, I started randomly calling, Googling PFLAG, or not PFLAG, but LGBTQ assistance, and I found a group in our town that helps with teenage youth in the LGBTQ community. And they suggested that I talk to PFLAG, which I had never heard of, but they ended up being a really wonderful resource for us. We made lots of friends that have kids just like ours, who knew doctors that we could work with, people in the school in the school. What's that called? The school board, or
the Board of Ed or something.
Yeah, that could help us with changing names or systems and everything like that. We live in the South, so we were just really careful along the way of who do we communicate with, and this was the bathroom bill in our state was happening at the same time. So it was in the news a lot, and it was just really stressful. But we were really lucky to find a community and people who knew how to help us and how to direct us. And our kid started school, had a wonderful teacher that really helped him express who he was. You know, he had had lots of disciplinary issues prior to this. He had lots of temper tantrums, and that we now know were not temper tantrums, they were panic attacks. And throughout this year, as we let him and affirmed who he really was and stopped fighting with him over the things he could wear and the things he could play with and the name he was going by, all of a sudden he flourished and he really started behaving the way that he was wanting to behave.
So once he was able to be himself, he was able to just be himself without thinking about it, just being a kid again.
Yeah, and really, that ended up being the way that our friends and family saw this out to be. You know, like, so when we didn't end up having a necessarily coming out or communicate this, we didn't feel like it was anybody's business.
Mm-hmm.
But as we started making more and more, you know, the neighbors were clearly wondering what was going on. Eventually we're like, he's going by Michael now. And those who asked us questions respectfully, we answered, and those who didn't don't really have part of our lives anymore.
Yeah, this is still your child. It's your child. As parents, you go with what you think is best for your child. Not everybody agrees with it, not everybody, but I understand. Yeah, if you want to talk to me about it, you know, ask me. You know, I know. Yeah, be open and honest, but don't be rude or disrespectful or judgmental, because, yeah, you haven't walked in my shoes. So until you're there, you have no right to go there. So what does your life look like now? Because now, obviously, he's older. He's probably adjusted and...
Yeah. I mean, he's lived more than half his life as his authentic self at this point. Today, life is just, and I could never have saw this at the beginning. The transition was so stressful. The affirming of who he was so stressful. Telling people was so stressful. We never knew what we were walking into. I was always walking into appointments and doctor's appointments or school counselor meetings, ready to fight. I was ready to battle for my kid at all times.
Yeah.
And what's good is almost all of those situations ended up being, I never had to get the claws out. They were always
good.
They were always affirming and wonderful people for the most part. Today, he lives his life as a regular kid. He's in 6th grade, going to middle school, has a girlfriend. I don't think that's much, you know, they haven't held hands, you know, but
right, they're young, so yeah.
He's living authentically his own life. Most of his friends know because they knew him since preschool, right? So, but they don't think of him as his pre-transition self. They've known him the whole time. They just think of him as Michael.
Right.
And so he truly lives authentically as a regular kid. And the problems that come up for kids are still problems that we have to experience. Mm-hmm. You know, sometimes there's bullying and we'll address that. Sometimes he is the bully and we'll address that. Right. You know, like, you know, kids are kids. But for the most part, he lives a really easy life. Or not easy, but, you know.
Right, as a normal kid.
Yeah.
Now, what did you learn as a mom from this? Because this is something we could all, like, learn from.
Yeah. I learned so much through both of my kids about being true to yourself and just how authentic they are to they know them. I want to be like them when I grow up. Like,
that's awesome.
I'm a 40-year-old woman who looks at my kids and wonders, what if I had been able to live authentically and instead of in our societal boundaries that we're put, you know, if my parents hadn't put me in figure skating and dance and beauty pageants, would I have chosen hockey or spelling bees or you know, where would I be? What would I be if I could have been authentically me?
Right.
And I value that in both of their lives. They're both truly the Christmas list that my oldest gave me this year for the types of clothes that he wants. hey, it blows my mind, but they are so authentically what he presents himself to be. Hey, good for him.
This is me. Yeah, take it
Yeah.
or leave it. Yeah, we all need to be more like that. I agree. We all need to be more like that. We're always trying to be in this box of what everybody tells us to be. And
Yeah.
why? Why?
Mhm.
You go once. Live your life the way you want to. So I
Yeah.
think one big thing that I think the moms could really get a lot out of is living authentically. And how do we recognize the sign? If we have a child going through this, or we're in some kind of sort of situation, we don't know. Like you said, you were trying to, you know, put them in the dress and play with these, and this is what we do. How do we know the signs that we might be dealing with it?
Well, I mentioned a couple of things earlier that were like the superficial things, the things that kind of rang a bell in my head. But really, for me, it was his mental health. It was the temper tantrums. It was the fighting back about the things that he could control. It was constant battles, just constant battles in our house. We had friends over at our house multiple times that had to leave because of us having arguments with our 4-year-old.
Yeah.
And and I think a lot of it too is don't shut down the questions from your kids. And the questions that he would ask were always, or not always, but often were deep, concerning questions for a 4-year-old.
Okay.
Mommy, what will my body look like when I'm older? And I'd say, well, you're going to look like mommy. You're going to have a body like mommy during bath time. I'm giving him a bath, and he'll say, what will my body look like? When will I have my penis?
So he was like waiting for it to, yeah. So
and I'm like, you're going to look like mommy's body. You're going to have a body like mommy's. Well, I don't want that. How do I don't want that. And so there was panic moments in those times where I could see him feel like his skin was crawling, like he would just like pick at his body in ways where he would want to change it, and he thought that if he picked at it, he could change it. But like none of this is none of the things that we've done as parents and in allowing our child to be authentic, I want to be clear, is surgical. Like he's an 11-year-old kid who, there's lots of news right now that says, this is child abuse. He's not having any medical surgeries. He's not experiencing anything that's going to hinder him forever. We had a plan. We've been meeting with his therapist, counselors, and doctors for years over how will we move through life and adolescence and puberty. And we have a plan with our doctors on that. And it's at risk. Those plans are at risk because of some of the politics right now surrounding, depending on which state you live in, on whether or not we'll be able to follow that plan. And if we don't, I think his mental health is going to be really at risk. And it's scary. It's really scary. That's the hardest part of.
So that's what you're dealing with now, the growing up part and what's next.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, you're in an organization now. Tell us about that. If we have something that we need some help with this, how do we get help and how do we get support? Because I'm sure you felt alone, like nobody else has been dealing with this. And, people might think my family's nuts, but we're not. There's other people out there that need this. And how can we get help?
Yeah, I highly recommend reaching out to PFLAG. PFLAG is an acronym or an older acronym that stands for Parents, Family, Friends of Lesbian and Gays. That acronym isn't used anymore, but PFLAG National is a great organization, and PFLAG has chapters all over the country. I'm involved with PFLAG Charlotte in North Carolina, and when we got involved, the president at the time called me because she got my name through the Time Out Youth here in Charlotte. That's a youth group for teens. And she said, tell me about your story. And I told her a lot of what I've told you. but it was in the heat of it, right? So it was very dramatic. It felt so lonely, and I was crying, and I was just like, I don't know what to do. How do I help my child?
Right.
I'm freaking out. And she said, oh my gosh, your story sounds like so many of ours. And like, I was almost offended because I was unique. Our family was unique. We
Right.
were alone. Nobody's here. We feel so alone.
Right.
There's so many others. And PFLAG is a wonderful community that's helped us so much, and they're all over the country. So highly recommend getting them.
Okay. And
This kid has friends that are just like him.
that's great.
Big. That's really big.
That's great. And this is called PFLAG?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. We'll put that in the comments and stuff so anybody that needs help can reach out. Amanda, is there any other advice you would like to give to our single moms?
I just, if you're experiencing a child who is gender creative and you wonder if this is a phase and you want it to go away, let it be a phase. Support your child through it, and if it is a phase, they will get through it quicker. If you fight them on it, that phase, our kids are stubborn, and that phase will last a lot longer. But if it's not a phase, they know you will accept them and love them no matter what. And then you'll get to be part of their lives through it all.
And that's so important, right? We want to connect with our kids, yes.
We want to thank you for tuning in today. Every Thursday there'll be new episodes, so definitely check back. In the meantime, feel free to follow us on Facebook at My Happy Place and Instagram at My Happy Place for Life. That was with the number 4. Remember, you're smart, you're beautiful, and you got this. See you soon.